Asa Needle is a member of the staff collective of the Worcester Roots Project, a nonprofit that brings together youth and adult organizers to create opportunities for economic, social, and environmental justice. Asa works with democratic, worker-controlled cooperatives, such as the youth-run Toxic Soil Busters, as a model for a new economics of liberation that is autonomous, inclusive, and just. Asa works with numerous community outreach and advocacy organizations, including the Solidarity and Green Economy Alliance, the Cooperative Power, and the Stone Soup Community Center. Asa was one of the 2012 winners of the National Brower Youth Award for Outstanding Youth Leadership. And he's here with us this morning. Please give a big Connecting for Change welcome to Asa Needle.
Who's already felt inspired today at this conference? Hi everyone, my name is Asa Needle. I'm here from the Worcester Roots Project, and I'm here to talk to you about some of the social and economic revolutions that are happening in my hometown, the town I love called Worcester, Massachusetts. I grew up in this city. It's a city of about 180,000 people, and it's a city that most people outside of Massachusetts haven't even heard of. And when people do know about Worcester, and when they look at Worcester, often all they can see is just another post-industrial town where the heavy industry is left, leaving behind unemployment, vacant lots, and abandoned buildings. But when I look at Worcester, I see a city ready to be on the cutting edge of a new way of doing business. And I'm not talking about some future fantasy eco-city. I'm talking about the solutions, from urban gardens to worker cooperatives, from collective land ownership to direct action for environmental justice, that we are building now, not tomorrow, today. The Worcester Roots Project started in 2001 when residents in the Maine South and Piedmont neighborhoods came together to take a stand against these environmental injustices, specifically the lead-contaminated soil that disproportionately affected the lower-income neighborhoods. It was that frustration around these deep disparities and the way children especially were being poisoned in our neighborhoods that motivated them to start offering free lead soil testing and low-cost soil remediation methods, and experimenting with new ones like phytoremediation, using plants to soak up the lead in the soil, using nature's own processes to heal itself and heal our communities. It was also one of the founding groups that rented space at the Stone Soup Community Center. So Worcester Roots Project isn't just about creating these changes in our environment with the community. They're also about broadcasting those stories and giving residents, youth, workers, people in the community that are most affected by these environmental injustices, people that are on the front lines of these battles for a better world and a cleaner future, that can broadcast those stories so that they can be heard all around the world. And this is some of our projects here. Community-based research and social justice youth development are two of the cornerstones of the Worcester Roots Project's work. And our collaborations, including Co-op Power and many others, that represent our family of organizations that we see as dedicated to building whole systems and economies that are based around new principles, not principles of competition, not principles of profit over people and the environment, but principles that place our needs, the needs of the people that live in these communities, first and not second. You know, I didn't always see my city this way. I don't think a lot of people come to Worcester to hit it big or make a name for themselves. They come for work or for family or because they want to find some better life for their children. And growing up in Worcester, I was on the top floor of a triple-decker apartment, and we had immigrant neighbors from Africa on the second floor and Brazilians on the first floor. And my first experiences, my first memories of the city are probably of being out on that back patio and all those people from all around the world, from all these different backgrounds, communicating and talking. And My dad was always the kind of person that would embarrass you by going up and talking to strangers. Anybody know someone like that? Someone that always goes up and talks to that people. And my mother was a weaver, so she would like connect people using arts. She would bring out these looms, and people from all these different ethnic backgrounds who sometimes couldn't even speak the same language would connect over this shared love of color, a shared love of creating something. And it sounds simple, but those those small building blocks of what community means, going up and talking to someone that might not be inside your comfort zone or inside your cultural circle, or going out and setting up a project that people can connect over even if they can't understand each other all the time. Those are things that I keep coming back to. Those are things that I will never forget. Now, as a kid, I sometimes felt alienated by school because I felt that I should be learning the things that I wanted to learn, that I was passionate about, and not the things that were handed down to me. So I was always the kid that had to ask why. I was always the kid that was like, well, isn't paper actually three-dimensional and not two-dimensional? If you look at it, it has some thickness to it, and got me into trouble sometimes. So it was amazing when I finally found a place where I thought, where that part of me was honored. And that place was the Stone Soup Community Center. And Stone Soup Community Center was a uniquely positioned as a hub for projects of resistance and imagination of all kinds. Anyone could drop in and find out about what actions or meetings were happening that week, what petitions to sign, how to get involved. And it was also a place where everyone was welcomed and respected, where kids from the community could have just as much say in how it was run. As an experienced organizer. So it didn't feel like just because I was a youth, they were looking down on me or my opinions were devalued, but that I had an equal seat at the table. I remember one of my first times walking into Stone Soup and they were making some kind of decision about who had power and what the responsibilities of the board were and what the responsibilities of the members were. And they were like, what do you think? What do I think? I'm 12 years old. I don't know what I think. But no one had ever asked me that before. No one at school had ever asked, hey, how much power do you think the teachers should have? What do you think that we should learn in class today? And it's that simple act of reaching past what you think someone's capable of to realize what their real potential is. Their real potential is to contribute something to the conversation. And it's not just nice, it's not just charity, it's necessary that those voices, the voices of youth, in determining how our communities are run, is absolutely essential to building an inclusive environment. So Stone Soup has a very special place in my heart. In March 2009, we had an electrical fire that completely devastated it. And it's been a long battle to reopen the building. And in that time, we've incorporated as a nonprofit, bought the building in its name, and ran a capital campaign. And the rebuild included large expansion, increased disability access, and a green energy retrofit to make it more energy efficient. And as someone who started as a youth, running around Stone Soup, tripping up people that were trying to get work done in that space, to now being a board member of the Stone Soup Community Center, it's my great honor to announce that we'll be reopening this December. So it was right after the Stone Soup fire, and I was yearning for that feeling I'd had when I first walked into Stone Soup, of being part of something bigger than myself, being part of something that was making a difference. And I also needed a job, and I didn't just want to work in McDonald's. I didn't just want to work somewhere where people told me what to do, and I spent my whole time working for money that went outside the community to poison people and not benefit my environment. So when I found Toxic Soil Busters, I was just beginning to define my own complicated political identity and feel out what unfamiliar terms like social justice meant to someone like me growing up in Worcester. And what I quickly learned was two things. One was that it takes a whole lot of really long, boring meetings sometimes to get anything done. And second, that there was a need, an urgent need, a desperate need for spaces where youth could exercise real control over their lives. I realized that everywhere youth aspirations were being co-opted by adult agendas that were already there, and it filled me with anger that I've tried to channel into these projects. I've begun to work with amazing adult allies who understand that you have to listen first before you can speak. And so even here, speaking, I feel uncomfortable because what I really want to do is listen to all the stories you have, so I hope you'll give me a chance to do that once I get down. Youth especially are too often passed over and thought of only as the recipient of service, the recipients of charity, instead of their own agents of change. And youth are often spoken of as a resource to be mined or a vote to be cornered, but rarely as equal partners, someone you connect with as an equal human being to embark on an endeavor and might have something important to say. Youth voices in the media are often confined to the spectrum of acceptable debate, what is considered appropriate for youth to have opinions about. Having youth presence in the environmental movement is not just an issue of inclusion, it is an issue of survival. Youth are on the front lines of environmental destruction, the most susceptible to environmental toxins and pollution, the first to be displaced by freak storms caused by climate change. True youth empowerment, for me, is inherently radical and counter to entrenched power structures who it benefits that youth aren't aware of the issues that are in their community. And we need not just youth voices, we need not just youth speaking, but youth power. Not just the privilege to plead for our planet, but the tools and skills to strike back against those that would destroy it. Toxic Soil Busters is a project that really inspires me because I feel it takes the next step from empowering youth to talk about the issues in the community to actually doing something about it. And that means running their own youth-led cooperative business, even when people say, well, youth can't run their own business, and proving them wrong. It means doing lead soil testing, lead safe remediation, working with community to give back, to not just be people that the community serves, but also people that can serve the community. Doing soil safety education and lead safe landscaping. This is a map of the instances of childhood lead poisoning in Massachusetts, and we see big clusters down here near New Bedford and in Worcester in the post-industrial areas. And here is a map of Worcester. That's Maine South, the cluster of red dots right there. Those are the neighborhoods, the people of color, low-income communities that are disproportionately affected by those poisons. And that, when I see that map, I'm reminded of why we do the work we do, because these environmental injustices affect people differently based on these false barriers, and that's what we need to stop. Toxic soil busters. Toxic Soil Busters was modeled off of a worker cooperative model, so that means a business owned and operated by a membership where every member has equal say. And our dedication to promoting these networks of worker cooperatives comes from this realization that the vast majority of big businesses owned by a few people can never put the environment or their workers before profits for long, and that cooperatives can create these democratic workplaces, jobs that stay in the community and live out the needs and wants of that community. Demonstration site. Us getting down and dirty, doing the work that needs to be done. So cooperatives. Now this fall, Worcester Roots, in collaboration with the Cooperative Development Institute, Boston Center for Community Ownership, is holding our very first Co-op Academy, which is this comprehensive co-op training program which gives prospective member owners the knowledge, resources, tools, and connections, the interpersonal relationships that they need to start their own business and become part of a national cooperative movement which is taking the traditional economy by storm. 20 sessions over 10 weeks include the in-depth, personalized, and participatory trainings on incorporation, finance, market analysis, group development, all those long meetings we were just talking about that it takes to make these amazing projects happen. And we support these community-minded entrepreneurs in discovering themselves as creative agents in a new, passionate economy. And these are just some of the cooperatives that have chosen to join us, showing an array from everywhere from youth to media co-ops to landscaping co-ops to pedicab to biodiesel bus services. Now, one last thing I want to leave you with. This November, we're holding a conference in Worcester, Massachusetts called the Solidarity and Green Economy Conference. So if any of the things that I've said so far interest you, or you think that an economy based upon compassion, based on mutual aid, based on caring about each other, isn't just nice, isn't just something that we want to have, but something that we need to have. Something that if we're going to survive the next 100 years, we need to build these relationships between each other and not rely on corporations that have the power, not rely on governments, not rely on top-down systems to solve our problems for us. Then I'd like you to join me November 9th and 10th, and we're going to be talking about some of the solutions that people have come up with, just like here in Connecting for Change, to battle these issues. That's what it's about. This is why Connecting for Change inspires me so much. How many people here are 18 or under? That's a significant number. That's more than you'll see of almost any other conference this size. And that's really what inspires me, bringing together young people, bringing together activists, bringing together organizers, educators, community leaders, nonprofits, anyone else who thinks that it's possible to have more equitable and fair, sustainable ways of organizing our communities and economies. That's what inspires me. So really, this isn't me trying to inspire you. I'm just one person. It's this whole room that really makes me realize that this is possible and that this is work that needs to be done. You know, at first glance, Worcester is just another decaying, mid-sized city without any industry or infrastructure. But just beneath that surface, if you manage to tap into that vein, if you manage to go past the veneer, the facade, the things that people tell you about a city, to actually find out about what's going on here, that's something that we need to do as communities every time we encounter a group that we say, oh, that's what's going on. I already know what's happening with this group. Oh, I already know what's happening with youth. They're apathetic, they don't know what's going on, they don't care, they don't have skills, they can't communicate, they can't organize anything. Saying no, 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 no. That's not the narrative that we want to put out there. We want to put out a narrative that we can do this, and we can change our communities if we put our minds to it, and if we aren't put into a box by systems that would have us shut up. Finding that community of people working cooperatively and in solidarity, in unity with one another, striving to find these new ways of living. And when we can collaborate between each other, these nonprofits and city governments, small businesses and activists, it reminds me that it's not just the visions that we build together that are important, but the connections that we build between each other. The relationships are what are going to last. Take Stone Soup, the community center, for example. Stone Soup has Worcester Roots Project. These are all organizations that rent space in this one community center. Worcester Roots Project, Toxic Soul Busters, a community bike shop, an ex-prisoner and prisoner rights group, Central Mass, ACLU, a homeless youth outreach center, a computer lab, a multi-generational video co-op, an anti-war group that cooks free community meals, a radical library, and a graphic shop. All these in one place. What does that make? When those barriers between the work that we do are broken down, when these artificial ways of thinking about things in boxes, and you're doing your work and I'm doing mine, get completely blown apart, and we can see that true, powerful cross-pollination where new ideas that were never thought to be possible can now spring up. Here in Worcester, we're not just creating institutions, we're creating a culture. A culture of inclusion, a culture of empowerment, a culture of sustainability. A culture that doesn't value corporations over people or their budgets over our health and safety. A culture of change and solidarity we can all own, that we can all be a part of, and that we can all believe in. And here in Worcester, we're not waiting to be told that it's possible. We're not waiting for the government to do it for us. We're recentering workers, youth, people of color, the evicted and foreclosed on, the unemployed and disenfranchised in a movement to take back our economy, take back our city, and take back our future. Thank you very much.
Can you believe it? Just before you came out here, I said, I'm a little nervous. Really? Okay, we're going to send you on a break. We've got 20 minutes. Go grab a cup of coffee.